Treasury is calling this budget poor and focused on accelerating the Big Four plan delivery. The question is it workable? Is it achievable? Is it feasible? That question, I may not have the answers, but we are joined by John Ndua. He's a senior investment analyst at Cytonn. He's coming on board to help us answer some of these questions and, of course, help understand some of the issues that may sound complicated for you and for me. John, thank you so very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you.
I want to find out from you, first of all, what were your expectations and were they met?
Yes, they were met because we all expected an expansionary budget. So the 2.5 trillion budget is definitely one. And given that you're a developing economy, it's something that we expected. But if you look at the budget, you need to look at how it's funded. And it's funded through either debt or the revenue collection. They're increasing the revenue collection, reducing the debt, which is a good thing, because if you look at what the IMF was saying about our debt sustainability, it's something that we need to look at if you are going to be sustainable in the future. So it's a good thing. However, we have increased the revenue collection, which is basically tax, by about 14% to about 1.9 trillion Kenyan shillings. The last year's budget was about 1.6 trillion, of which you have collected about 66% of it. So is it achievable? The government is putting a lot of measures, increasing the tax bracket, increasing taxes on imports, increasing the taxes on vehicles, increasing tax on many other things. However, they have put also these measures of improving the REC system, of tracking cargo systems. They've also improved the iTax system. However, we're not seeing it trickling down to the amount of money they are collecting. So the question we ask, is it really sustainable, or we'll find ourselves borrowing more money to fund this budget?
Of course, there has been a lot of argument in the past that if Kenya Revenue Authority was to become a little bit more efficient and be able to seal some of the evasion loopholes, they are even in a position to collect about 3 trillion shillings, in any year. And we have seen a lot of, excuse me, we have seen a lot of effort, by both the Kenya Revenue Authority and the National Treasury to try and close some of those loopholes. And they have, for example, they have lost a multi-agency, a multi-sector agency, to deal with the issues of counterfeit and contraband goods. And they are also hoping that these are some of the measures that they are putting in place to ensure that they collect more. How much do you think KRA is likely to collect?
If they are able to achieve that, they can collect even the budget amount. However, we use precedents to see whether they are doing it, because even last year they had the willpower and they wanted to do this, but they are failing. Why are they failing? Because maybe there are people in the government themselves who are conflicted, I must say. If you look at our tax bracket, the people who are actually taxed is about 40%. 60% is informal sector. Yes, they're trying to tax the Mtumba industry. However, they have failed to really go in and delve even in the 40% that are really being taxed. So by tightening or putting the systems in a place where they can actually tax efficiently, even those people in formal employment, then they pave the way so that they can go to the informal sector. But now they're going into informal sector without even tightening the noose on the formal sector. So I believe there's the willpower and the government is trying its best to improve revenue collection, but it also needs to be aggressive in the sense that every year the budget is expansionary, increasing by on average 7%. However, we always below the revenue collection each year.
If you ask the Kenya Revenue Authority mandarins, they will tell you that last year was a very tough operating environment. We had a lot of uncertainty because of the elections. At the beginning of last year, there was some major drought that affected, food production. And then the first quarter of 2017, of course of 2018, there was some tension because of the elections, and then came the floods. So they will cite those as some of the challenges that they have been facing, with collection. But now they're saying that, going forward, we do not foresee any political uncertainty going forward because of the shakes and handshakes. That is somehow good. Yeah. And so we are winning back investors' confidence. Yeah, and so they are basing that as part of their argument to collect more this year. Is it grounded on formidable ground?
It is a fair point. Last year was a tough economic environment, given the elections, the drought, the floods. So it is a fair point that maybe the amount of money to be collected was really not there. However, this has been a story for the past 5 years, and last year was just a unique year. So this year, if they put in the effort, they can do it. However, they have not done it before. But the budget says that they feel like they can do it. However, we have not seen measures put in place for them to collect. However, they're increasing the tax bracket, maybe they will collect the money. However, you can cite tough economic conditions. However, you are blowing your recurrent budget. So if it's a tough economic environment, then why are you spending more on recurrent expenditure? Development expenditure is lower. Absorption rate is about 70%. You are borrowing expensive money from the global markets, and you are not even deploying it in the economy. So there's a disconnect to what they're saying. However, I believe that this year, if there's the willpower, and if you can look at the rhetoric coming from the president, he really wants to fight corruption and get Kenya going. So if they're able to collect this money and channel it into development expenditure, then I believe it's a year to watch.
Of course, the president has been talking tough, about corruption. Yeah. So he has the wheels. The question is, how much are we likely to succeed going forward? Let's come to taxation measures, outlined today. Yeah. Targeting mobile money services and fuel guzzlers. Annually we have seen, mobile money services, going up. Yeah. Currently, I think they are doing about 3 trillion shillings transactions. Yeah, transactions. Raising excise duty from 10 to 12%. How much money are they likely to get out of that?
You see, in Kenya, mobile money is the most advanced in the world. We transact more on the mobile than we even do on any other means. So with this, they can collect a vast amount of money. Because if you look at, if I can give a case of Safaricom, Safaricom last year made a profit of about 50 billion, of which about 50% was from M-Pesa transactions. So just imagine tapping that. It's a vast market. However, most of the people in Kenya rely on mobile money to do their business. So yes, you can collect a lot of money, but what does it mean for the common person who's reliant on mobile money? So I think it's a two-way issue in the sense that the government can get a lot of money from it. If you talk about 3 trillion in transactional value, so just imagine tapping even 10% of that. It's a lot of money.
That's 300 billion shillings.
Yeah, of free money just like that. Yeah, no hassle, and it's via mobile. You can tap it, it's efficient, and you can track it.
So there is something that is not yet clear.
Yeah.
So is the government planning to tax money that is being transacted or revenue that is being generated from the transactions?
They already tax the revenue generated from the transactions because it's revenue to a particular company, so it's corporate tax.
Yes.
So they definitely tax that. So it's tax on the money being transmitted.
Money being transmitted.
Being transmitted.
So the 3 trillion shillings we are talking about.
Exactly.
Wow, that's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money
out of there.
Exactly. And that's why the tax is not that crazy as we see like VAT 16 or those, or excise duty 20%, because it's a lot of money. However, it will, the reason why people transact on mobile money is because it's convenient and cheaper to do so. Yeah. So if you increase a cost on it, maybe they'll move to other means of transactions. However, even Kenya right now is about 90% cash transaction. So it tells you the vast amount of place you can actually tax. So I believe the government is looking for easier ways of getting money rather than innovating around ways in which they can get sustainable money. Because if only that 3 trillion being transacted consists of 10% of the amount of cash in circulation in the economy, why don't they think about ways of taxing the 90%?
The 90%?
Yeah.
In your own opinion, was it a wise decision, I mean, to target mobile transactions?
In my opinion, it was an easy decision to make because it's just there in your face. So it's easier to track that. However, I don't believe there was much thought towards it because even though mobile money is huge in Kenya, there's still a vast amount of untapped places you can think of. So going for the easier option is a bit lazy, I will say. However, the government needs to take what they can at the moment because we are a growing economy. In the background, they can be thinking of other ways. However, we have a debt servicing we have to do. We have to develop our county, we have to develop the economy. So they take what they get.
What about fuel guzzlers? 2,000 cc's, 2,500 cc's and above.
And what percentage of that is on our roads? It's insignificant. It is a good thing. You see, it is a good thing to tax the fuel guzzlers, to even tax people earning over 750,000. It sends a clear message as if that if you spend more, you get taxed more. However, it's such a small percentage of the economy that I don't think it will trickle down to what the budget size is suggesting. Because you're increasing revenue from 1.6 billion to 1.9 billion. Will that really cover the deficit? I don't think so.
You don't think so?
I don't think so.
Let's talk about budget deficit.
Yeah.
Which has always been a thorny issue when it comes to their midterm target is 6%, right?
Yeah.
Their long-term target is 3.5%. Is it achievable when you look at the amount of revenue that we are collecting vis-a-vis, our recurrent expenditure?
It is achievable because what they're projecting for next year is about 5.7, which is already in their midterm target. So I believe it's achievable. However, it all boils down to how you structure the budget because it's 2.5. You're saying 1.9 million coming from taxation. The rest is coming from borrowing. You see, you can always allocate like that because it's just a budget. However, in real terms, are you going to achieve it in future? In the medium term, I believe they can achieve 6%. We're not far off from that. We're actually in that range. However, for the long term of 3% goes down now to where they're spending their money on. They're spending most of their money on recurrent and not development.
Exactly.
Exactly. And they're blowing their budget on recurrent and underperforming on development. If they fix that and we see more allocation towards development and less on recurrent and spending less on recurrent and absorbing more on development, then it will be achievable. However, we look at trends for the past 5, the past 10, the past 20 years. Every budget reading, they have always had a medium-term target. Have they able to meet it? Have they been able to meet it? No, they have not. However, it should not be discouraging and should not make the government be ambitious. They should always put measures in place and visible measures in order to do that. However, if using track record, they haven't. But going forward, that's what they need to do.
Tell me this, reducing the development vote to 660 billion Kenya shillings, while the recurrent expenditure is it 1.2 trillion?
1.2 trillion.
1.2 trillion shillings, almost double what we are spending on development. Then we claim that we are cutting down on our deficit. Are we fooling ourselves? Are we going to develop at the end of the day?
It's a tricky subject because it's how you fund it. It's how you fund it that depicts the budget deficit. You see, our budget is recurrent and development. The budget deficit is what we are lacking to fund all of it. Even if recurrent was 100% and development 0%, the budget deficit will still be at 5.7, their target.
But the beauty of it is that, I mean, we can decide to do away with development and remain with recurrent and manage to fund it, you know, from our revenues.
Yeah, we can. However, we are ambitious on both fronts. We want to do more development, and if you do more development and the government has an administrative role, so recurrent will always increase. However, it's increasing at a higher rate than development. So this begs a question as to which aspect of recurrent expenditure are we actually spending most on? Is it really administrative, or is it really money down the drain? Because you see, administrative is not money down the drain because it's going to pay salaries or people actually implementing those developments. However, if it's things like allowances, these small things they enjoy, then there's an issue.
I mean, you know, we'll be taking a short break because I want you to have a sip of your water. You'll be telling us, I mean, why do we underperform when it's come to funds absorption on development, yet we overperform on recurrent expenditure by an average of 107%? You'll be answering that question. Look here, we're in the company of John Ndua. He's a senior investment analyst. We're having a very good and interesting conversation here. I told you can become part of this conversation. I'm very sure you listened because we gave you our SMS line and, of course, our Twitter handle. Ndua, do you have a Twitter handle?
No.
Jesus, you're kidding me. All right, let me give you mine. It's at O'Brien Kimani. Send me your questions, your thoughts, and, of course, you might be the lucky person. I'm likely to read some of your thoughts right here on the KBC channel. And remember, we are coming to you live from Broadcasting House. This is Business Insight. Welcome back. You're watching Business Insights. We are live and we are on air. And we are coming to you from Broadcasting House. We've been having this discussion, you know, reflecting upon the budget speech of Henry Rotich. And of course, we are in great company of John Ndua. He's a senior investment analyst at Cytonn. And I told you my Twitter handle is at O'Brien Kimani, at KBC Channel 1. And of course, our SMS line is on your screen right now, and we'll welcome your views, your questions, and of course your compliments using those platforms. John, before we went on air, I mean, we went for break. You know, I was asking you, I mean, when you look at the measures that the National Treasury, you know, has outlined, you know, to collect more resources in the next financial year, do you think they are workable?
Realistically, I think at the moment, at the place where we are in terms of the level of the reforms, I don't believe it's workable. However, I believe we'll be at a better place than last year. Given the fact
to collect more.
To collect more. Yeah, given the fact that now it's not so challenging, so the elections are over, the drought is over, and we can see that the government is also putting in place these measures to collect more by reducing even the debt reliance. So I believe we'll be at a better place. However, the 1.9 trillion is still ambitious, and I believe maybe we can meet about 70% of that, 70 to 80% of that. Yeah.
Another interesting proposal, you know, that caught the eyes of many is the amendment to the Employers Act in an effort to raise resources to put up affordable homes, whereby employers are expected to contribute about 7.05% and employees 0.5% of their gross salary to go towards raising resources to help put up, you know, affordable homes. Do you think employers are likely to take this lying low?
I believe employers will actually take this well, because it's a really good initiative. If you look at Kenya in terms of housing deficit, we have 200,000 annually and 1 million currently. So that tells you that there's a need for affordable housing. even it's something personal even to me and also maybe to you. The rent we pay is really, really, really high because it's mostly a third of your salary, mostly. So, and even at Cytonn, what we normally do is that we leave allocation for affordable housing because we know there's a really big need in this country. So as employers, I believe that it's an initiative that will become, they will take well.
Where will they get this money from?
They'll just take it from the bottom line because it's going to a sustainable environment where people have decent housing. And if people have decent housing and affordable housing, so we will demand more salaries also. So it's something in the long run that will help the employer too.
So of course, if they are getting this money from their bottom line, it means that it's going to, it's going to eat into their profit margins.
Yes, but
do you expect them to smile?
Not to smile, but to look at the future and see what it's going to. Because if the future of the country is not sustainable, even the future of the employer is not sustainable. If you're in a country where people can't afford basic affordable housing, then what country are you trying to earn these billions from? You see? So I believe as an employer, you want to...
Do you anticipate some legal battles going forward between the government and the employers?
On this particular issue, no. Because I believe it's something that is actually sustainable. I believe maybe if there was going to be any legal, it's going to be proper visibility on the allocation on where it's going to. Yeah, because you can, as an employee, you don't want to churn out 7.5%, and it's not going to the initiative that was promised.
Tell me something about, forming a mega bank in the name of Kenya Development Bank. Do you think, or do you see, like the government has the management muscle to run such a behemoth of a bank?
Currently, no, but they'll build capacity. So I believe the government have the resources enough to build capacity to run this bank. And if you look at...
Is it advisable, for a government to manage a bank?
Yes, it is advisable. Because if you look
in
at...
the Kenya that we live today?
Yes, it's mostly advisable for the government itself to manage, not government to afford an entity to manage. If the government itself is managing, then it's something that can work, because the government manages CBK, and the CBK is actually doing quite well. It's one of the most well-run institutions in the country.
But CBK is not in the business of making money. It's just in the business of depositing money.
Either way, it's as an institution. If you look at government-run institution, CBK is actually performing well, and they run most of the government's money. So you can look, if a government is running a bank towards an initiative that is part of its core agenda, then it's something that's advisable.
Would you say Industrial Development Bank, which is 100% owned by Treasury, is well managed?
I will say maybe not, but the question was if the government has capabilities to do so. They do. They do.
They do.
They do. Yeah.
So you expect, or in your judgment, and we are not casting aspersions here. We're just trying to widen our thought network. You believe that the government has the capacity to manage a bank the size of Kenya Development Bank by merging the three institutions they are talking about?
Yes.
Good. Time, of course, will tell, and of course, at some point, probably, maybe we'll have you back here, so that we can reflect on this one. Tell me this, 800 million shillings for regeneration of Nairobi River, 400 million shillings for Cancer Institute.
Yeah, it's quite alarming, and it casts a picture on where our priorities are really. Because for Nairobi River, if it was on my opinion, I believe it's a county initiative and not a national government initiative, because the national government has a wider net of where it needs to allocate the money, and Nairobi River should not be at the top of its agenda. And if you compare the two, cancer is a national disaster, even declared recently. Nairobi River is not. And you allocate double to Nairobi River than cancer treatment, then it's alarming, and it should not be happening in this day and age. Yeah.
And tell me this, when you look at, the deliberations that have been going on in the last couple of months, to repeal the banking amendment law. Do you think this is a welcome move?
It is a welcome move. If you look, it was more a political move than it was an economic move, if I'm to be asked.
But it is very popular, especially with the members of parliament.
Very popular.
It's a populist move.
Yeah. However, look at what it has done. It's supposed to help the common mananchi. Credit has gone down to 2% from 18%. They're still not getting the money. And in fact, it's even way harder to get money now. Who's getting more money? It's the government. Because as a bank, am I going to give a riskier individual at 14% or loan it to the bank, which is risk-free at 14%?
Do you think the commercial banks, are sabotaging, deliberately sabotaging the banking amendment law?
No. Because if you look
where are they taking their money? Why are they not lending?
They're giving the government. So you should be asking the government, why are they taking this money and not letting the banks lend it out? So it's a question of asset allocation. I, as a bank, and I have shareholders to report to, I'd be asked, why are you giving riskier lenders at 14% and the default rate comes to 10%, or give the government and the default rate comes to 2%? It's a no-brainer to a bank CEO. He will never give an individual.
But the rate the government is offering is only 9%, whereas I'm offering you 14%.
No, 9% for a one-year instrument. If you look at a 5-year instrument, it's at 12%. So that risk margin is what the bank's banking on.
So they would rather give their money to the bank?
Rather give it to the bank, to the government. Yeah.
So what would you advise the government?
Just repeal the law. Repeal the law, show the data. Credit is going down. The economy is going down, and the economy is run by credit. So, from the
reactions of members of parliament, and I had an opportunity to talk to a number of them.
Yeah.
They said this is an all-go zone. Forget about it.
Okay. If you look at the analysis, there's no country which controlling the interest rates or controlling the free markets.
They wouldn't buy that.
Then we'll stick in this level until they see it.
We all go down the drain?
They go down the drain, and then once it comes...
You don't see like the banks will get to a certain point whereby they say now, okay, we are not in the bank, we are not in the business of keeping money.
Yeah.
We're in the business of lending money.
Yeah.
We must find a way around, of lending this money to Kenyans. You don't see like they will get to such a point.
Then I will have one question. This 1.9 trillion the government is planning to collect, in all honesty, if you look at even the trends, they won't achieve the 100%. Where will they get the deficit? From borrowings. And who will they borrow? The banks. So the banks will always have a place to give the money. And it's the government. And the government will always be in demand of cash, regardless of where they are. They will always need cash.
So what magic do you think, or do you see CS Protich, pulling to Parliament, to convince them that we need to repeal this law, we need to do away with this?
I am a strong believer in data and showing the effects of certain laws and how they affect the economy. And if the data is presented in a way that the people can actually see, or the members of Parliament can actually see the effect, I believe they're rational and they will go there.
And you don't want to tell me that members of Parliament are not aware that the voters will be watching definitely, and they have their positions to protect.
Yeah.
So do you think they would want to take that route, and risk being voted out by the people who voted them in?
I believe it's up to them to also explain to their voters the effect of this thing and how it has affected them. Because even me as a voter, I'm not still getting the money. So is it helping me really? It's not.
So we are all banning? Yeah,
we're all banning. So let the banks lend and do their core duty as a bank, but in a free market.
Very well.
Yeah.
Because we will, at some point, we must come to the end of this interview. Yeah, there is, let me read one tweet here from a gentleman here. He says, he's Benjamin Kira. He's saying, why is the government targeting alcohol?
Yeah.
Why is the government targeting alcohol?
People will always drink, people will always spend money on alcohol. So it's a sin tax. So you see, there's no substitute to it. You can't say, now I'll stop drinking and go to something else.
You don't think people will stop drinking?
No, they won't.
They will continue to drink?
They'll continue to drink.
Do you drink?
Maybe drink less. Yes, I do.
You drink?
Yeah.
You love your bottle?
I still have my bottle.
Will you continue to drink?
Yes, I will.
Regardless of how much it costs?
How much it costs. I'll still have a drink once in a while. And that's how the world runs. It's a sin tax. It's for example, you see, if they tax ugali to a certain level where people cannot afford it, they'll switch to something else. Maybe they'll switch to rice or whatever alternative will be there. There's no alternative to alcohol, so people will still drink.
So Benjamin, you have your answer. You have your answer there. People will definitely continue to drink, regardless of how much the government tax alcohol. So your final thoughts.
Okay.
Generally, you know, when you look at whatever CS Rotich presented in Parliament, what are your refined thoughts on it?
I believe the government is in all honesty trying to grow the economy and make Kenya a hub, a South African hub for investment. However, I believe it needs to be realistic in terms of how you're funding it. And you need to set the base towards funding the budget. If you're not able to collect a previous budget revenues, also the other previous budget revenues, and you keep on increasing it, and the measures still don't work, you need to rethink and come up with a better way, and also address that particular issue. Because I believe the government focuses more on where the money is being allocated. They never focus on whether it's actually achievable to raise such money. So I believe they should change the tact towards that, convince us how they will raise the money, and we will be at a better position.
Very well.
Yeah.
Thank you very much indeed, John, for joining us here, and of course for sharing us with your insights.
Thank you.